4 letters, L-I-F-E. Yet this is the most complex question we've ever faced. Right now you're breathing, your heart is beating, you're thinking. But where did you come from? And where are you going? Today we're seeking answers to questions that every human has asked themselves, but many are afraid to voice. Because once you start dissecting the secrets of life, you realize that nothing is as it seems. The meaning of life, personal dimension. What does life mean to you? If you stopped right now and honestly answered this question, you'd probably think for minutes. And that's natural, because life means something different to everyone. For some, it's the pursuit of happiness. For others, finding love. For someone, it's the path of self-realization. For yet another, simply survival. But is there a universal answer to what the essence of life is? Throughout history, countless sages, philosophers, and spiritual leaders have tried to solve this mystery. Buddha said life is suffering, and the goal is liberation from suffering. According to Aristotle, eudaimonia, happiness and human flourishing, is life's purpose. Hinduism defines 4 goals: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, righteous living, material prosperity, pleasures, and finally, liberation. We find this search in every culture. The ancient Egyptians believed life's purpose was to become worthy of eternal life. According to Mayan civilization, the human soul's mission is to create balance between the physical and spiritual worlds. In Norse mythology, warriors' goal was to prove themselves worthy of Valhalla. But what if there's an answer that transcends all of this? What if life isn't just what we're living now, but part of an infinite process? This thought radically changes our perspective. Suddenly, every daily struggle, every joy and pain becomes part of a larger story. The mystery of beginnings, religious perspectives. Where did humanity really begin? This question has captivated humanity for millennia. 2 main approaches have emerged, religious and scientific, but both raise more questions than they answer. According to religious interpretation, God created humanity. Christian tradition names Adam and Eve as the first humans. But a logical problem immediately arises. If Adam and Eve were the first humans, who gave birth to them? Did they have parents? And if God created them, who were God's parents? This leads to infinite regression, which raises the question, is there even a beginning? Islam tells a similar story, but with slightly different details. Allah formed Adam from clay, then breathed a soul into him. This raises the question, what is a soul? Where did it come from? Did it exist before, or was it created in that moment? Judaism adds an even deeper layer. According to Kabbalah, Adam's soul existed before creation and consists of 5 parts. These parts represent different levels of consciousness, and the highest level is in direct connection with the divine. Hinduism and Buddhism take a different approach. According to them, there is no beginning. The universe exists in cyclical, infinite circulation. Brahma's days and nights alternate, and in each cycle new universes are born and pass away. This concept frees us from the problem of beginnings, but raises another question. Why does anything exist instead of nothing? According to Hinduism, this question itself is an illusion. The duality of nothing and something is only a product of the limited human mind. Reality simply exists, without any categorization or distinction. The limits of scientific approach. According to the scientific approach, Humans evolved through evolution. Darwin's theory states we share a common ancestor with apes, but this doesn't answer the ultimate question either. What came before the apes? Mammals. And before them? Reptiles. And even earlier, fish. Single-celled organisms. Inorganic matter. But where did inorganic matter come from? According to Big Bang theory, the universe exploded from a singular point 13.5 billion years ago. But what was before that? What caused the Big Bang itself? Stephen Hawking tried to answer these questions, but even he admitted that physics has its limits. Modern cosmology discovers increasingly strange things. Dark matter and dark energy make up 95% of the universe, but we have no idea what they actually are. According to quantum mechanics, particles appear and disappear from nothing. String theory suggests 11 dimensions exist, but we only perceive 4. The more we know, the more questions arise. This suggests that perhaps our assumption is wrong, that science will one day answer every question. Perhaps there are dimensions of existence that are fundamentally unknowable to the human mind. Quantum physics and the consciousness revolution. Modern physics has brought revolutionary discoveries that radically changed our concept of reality. Quantum mechanics has shown that the observer's presence influences physical processes. This means consciousness plays a fundamental role in shaping reality. The double-slit experiment demonstrates this clearly. When no one is observing, a photon passes through both slits simultaneously, like a wave. But as soon as we place an observer, the photon behaves like a particle and only goes through one slit, as if the particle knows it's being watched. Some physicists, like Max Planck or Eugene Wigner, went so far as to consider consciousness the foundation of reality, rather than reality being the foundation of consciousness. Max Planck clearly stated, "Consciousness is fundamental. Matter is derived from consciousness." This radically changes the picture. Perhaps we aren't products of consciousness, but consciousness creates us. This aligns with ancient spiritual teachings. Vedanta philosophy states that everything is a manifestation of infinite consciousness, Brahman. Buddhism speaks of Buddha nature, which is found in the depths of every being. Christian mysticism says God is present in every creature. The holographic universe theory. Physicist David Bohm proposed the possibility of a holographic universe. According to him, all information is contained in everything, like in a hologram. If you illuminate any part of a hologram, the entire image appears, just at lower resolution. This could mean that every atom, every cell of ours contains the information of the entire universe. This would explain how DNA-encoded information can create a complete living being, or how infants are born with certain abilities they never learned. Neurologist Carl Pribram showed that the brain also functions holographically. Memories aren't stored in a specific location, but distributed throughout the entire brain. This might explain how memories can return even after severe brain injury. If you've found these thoughts intriguing so far, subscribe to the channel, because we'll be exploring many more deep philosophical and spiritual topics together. And now let's continue with what might be the most important question. Death as transition. Scientific evidence. What happens when we die? This is perhaps humanity's oldest and deepest question. Materialists believe death is the complete cessation of existence. Consciousness is a byproduct of brain processes, so when the brain stops, we cease to exist. but increasing evidence speaks against this. Near-death experience research has been ongoing for decades, producing increasingly convincing results. Dr. Raymond Moody, Dr. Kenneth Ring, Dr. Pim van Lommel, and others have documented thousands of cases where people in clinical death reported conscious experiences. These experiences are strikingly similar, regardless of culture and religious background. Light tunnels, life reviews, encounters with loving beings, profound peace, dissolution of boundaries. Some claim these are just hallucinations from an oxygen-deprived brain, but this explanation is becoming increasingly untenable. Dutch cardiologist Dr. Pim van Lommel conducted a breakthrough study. He examined 336 heart attack survivors. Those who experienced near-death phenomena could provide detailed information about events that occurred when their brains weren't functioning. They described who said what in the operating room, what clothes the staff wore, what was happening in adjacent rooms. One particularly convincing case is Maria's story. She was lying in her hospital bed when during her near-death experience she saw a shoe on the external ledge of the hospital's 3rd floor. When she recovered, she told the nurse who went up to check. The shoe was there, exactly as Maria described. She even knew the sole was worn in a certain place. Scientific research on reincarnation. But what if death isn't a final destination, but a transition? What if the soul lives on and is reborn in a new body? This is the idea of reincarnation, which lives in a large portion of the world's population, but was long taboo in Western culture. Dr. Ian Stevenson, a psychiatry professor at the University of Virginia, researched the possibility of reincarnation using scientific methods for 4 decades. He documented more than 2,000 cases worldwide where children retained detailed memories of previous lives. These memories were verified through investigation, names, places, events that the child couldn't have known any other way. One of the most famous cases is Shanti Devi's story from India. At age 4, she began speaking about her previous life in Mathura, where she lived as Lugdi Devi. She described her house, husband, child, and circumstances of death during childbirth in detail. When they took her to Mathura, every detail she described matched. She recognized her former husband, his new wife, and the child she had left behind in her previous life. Dr. Stevenson's successor, Dr. Jim Tucker, continued the research and developed even more precise methods. Their statistical analyses showed these cases aren't random. They're more frequent after violent death, more common in cultures that accept reincarnation, and usually occur 2 to 4 years after death. Birthmark research. Dr. Stevenson created a separate category for cases where children's birthmarks or congenital deformities corresponded to injuries from previous lives. He documented more than 200 such cases, supported by photographs and medical records. A Thai boy's birthmark exactly matched the gunshot wound that allegedly killed him in his previous life. A Turkish boy's ear defect was exactly like that of the man whose ear was cut off in his previous life. An Indian girl's missing fingers were the same as those of the woman whose hand was caught in a cutting machine. These cases are particularly interesting because birthmarks and congenital deformities develop in the womb when the child couldn't yet hear stories. Materialists say these are coincidences, but the statistical probability of such precise matches occurring by chance is practically zero. Xenoglossy, knowledge of foreign languages. An even more astounding phenomenon is xenoglossy, when someone speaks a language they never learned. Dr. Stevenson and colleagues documented several cases where children or adults under hypnosis spoke fluently in languages they had never encountered. An American woman under hypnosis spoke an ancient Swedish dialect that had been extinct for centuries. An Indian child spoke Bengali fluently despite growing up in a Hindi environment. A Japanese girl sang in Portuguese despite never hearing this language. Skeptics say these are hidden memories they somehow heard somewhere, but often these involve dialects no one speaks anymore, or ancient forms known only to linguists. The soul's journey, karma and learning. If we accept the possibility of reincarnation, then the question arises, why are we reborn? What is the purpose of this process? Is it random, or is there some logic behind it? According to Eastern philosophies, the soul incarnates multiple times to learn and develop. Each life brings new lessons, new experiences. According to the law of karma, consequences of our actions carry over from one life to another. But this isn't a simple punishment or reward system. Karma is often misunderstood in Western culture. It's not about cosmic revenge, but a learning process. If someone causes much harm to others in one life, in the next life they might experience what it's like to suffer harm, not out of revenge, but to understand the reality of pain and develop empathy. Hypnotherapist Dr. Michael Newton hypnotized thousands of people back to the state between lives. In his books, he describes how souls choose their next life. It doesn't happen randomly, but based on conscious decision with advice from spiritual guides. Souls work in groups and often meet the same souls in different roles. Someone who was a parent in one life might be a child in the next. Someone who was an enemy might become the best friend. This helps understand and process different human relationships. Signs of karmic connections. How can you recognize karmic connections in your life? There are several clear signs. The immediate feeling of recognition when you first meet someone. Deep emotional reaction that seems disproportionate to the brevity of acquaintance. Ingrained patterns that repeat again and again in the relationship. Sometimes we're dealing with positive, sometimes negative karmic connections. Positive connections bring joy, support, inspiration. Negative ones bring conflict, pain, but ultimately learning opportunities. The purpose of karmic connections is always healing and development. When we understand and process the underlying lesson, the relationship either deepens or naturally ends. This isn't tragedy, but a natural part of growth. Often we hate those qualities in others most that exist in ourselves, but we don't want to acknowledge. These mirror relationships are particularly strong learning opportunities. The universe's fate and consciousness's eternity. But what happens when humanity itself dies out? What if Earth becomes uninhabitable? If the sun burns out? If the universe ends in heat death? Does all learning, all development become meaningless? According to science, the universe will end in heat death. Stars will burn out. Black holes will evaporate. And only cold, empty space will remain. This can be a frightening thought, but perhaps it's based on false assumptions. If consciousness is truly fundamental, as quantum physics and spiritual traditions suggest, then it could survive the destruction of the material universe. According to some theories, consciousness could create new universes in infinite cycles. This brings us back to Hindu cosmology. Brahma's days and nights. Every universe is an exhalation of infinite consciousness, and when it inhales, everything returns to the source. only to exhale again, creating new worlds. But this doesn't mean everything is lost. The consciousness that developed remains. All learning, all love, all wisdom becomes part of the next cycle. Evolution isn't linear, but spiral, always beginning again at a higher level. The multiverse and infinite possibilities. Modern cosmology has also reached similar conclusions. Multiverse theory suggests infinite parallel universes exist. Each has different physical laws, different stories unfolding. This could mean every possible version exists somewhere. There's a universe where you made different decisions, one where history unfolded differently, one where humanity evolved differently, one where life never emerged, and one where much more advanced civilizations exist. This means infinite comfort and infinite responsibility. Comfort, because nothing is final. Every mistake can be corrected in another dimension. Every lost opportunity is realized somewhere. Responsibility, because every decision matters in some dimension. It's also possible that connections exist between different universes, that in our dreams, meditations, or intuitions, we receive information from parallel versions of ourselves. This would explain déjà vu experiences, prophecies, or why we sometimes know what will happen. Life as consciousness development. Perhaps life's true purpose isn't happiness, success, or even survival. Perhaps the goal is increasing consciousness. Every experience, joyful or painful, adds to our inner wisdom. When we suffer, we learn compassion. When we love, we understand the nature of unity. When we create, we partake in creative force. When we let go, we surrender to the infinite process. This gives perspective to our daily problems. Work stress, relationship conflicts, health concerns. They're all lessons. They're not meant to be endured, but learned from. Every pain is an opportunity for growth. Every challenge is a chance to become stronger. Every loss teaches us what's truly important, and every joy reminds us that existence is fundamentally a blessing. Practical spirituality. How do we live this? But how can we live this in daily life? How can we integrate these thoughts into our practical reality? How can spirituality become a living experience, not just an intellectual concept? The first step is increasing awareness. This can mean meditation, contemplation, or simply practicing presence in the present moment. When we consciously pay attention to our breathing, thoughts, feelings, we come closer to our true selves. Meditation isn't complicated. It's enough to sit quietly for 10 minutes daily and watch the breath. When thoughts distract attention, we gently guide it back to breathing. This is like mental fitness. The more we practice, the stronger our awareness becomes. The second step is developing compassion. If we believe every being is part of the same cosmic consciousness, then harming others harms ourselves. Helping others helps ourselves. This isn't sentimental thinking, but a practical approach. When we're kind to others, we create a better world around us. When we help, we receive help when we need it. Karma isn't a mystical force, but the natural law of interactions. If this video has given you a new perspective on life, share it with others so they can contemplate these deep questions too. Write in the comments below what you think life's purpose is. The power of grateful attitude. The third step is cultivating a grateful attitude. Every day we encounter countless miracles. We just rarely notice them. Our heartbeat, The air we breathe, smiles from loved ones, sunset beauty, music that touches our soul, all gifts. Gratitude isn't just positive thinking, it's clearer seeing of reality. When we're grateful, we recognize how much more good there is in our lives than bad. This changes our perspective and attracts even more positive experiences. Keep a gratitude journal. Every evening, write down 3 things you're grateful for. Initially, it might be difficult, but over time it becomes easier to find blessings, and you'll discover more and more blessings in your life. The difference between ego and true self. One of the biggest obstacles in spiritual development is the ego. The ego is what makes us feel separate from everything and everyone. This is an illusion, but a very strong illusion deeply embedded in our thinking. The ego defends against recognizing unity because this would mean its own extinction. That's why it clings so strongly to our identity, possessions, opinions, past and future. It fears that if we let these go, we too will cease to exist. But the opposite is true. When we recognize that the ego is just a construct, we discover our true nature. This true self doesn't perish, can't be hurt, lacks nothing. It's pure consciousness that stands behind every experience. The ego is like a mask we wear. It can be useful in certain situations, but we're not identical with it. When we remove the mask, the face is underneath. When we let go of the ego, consciousness is underneath. Love as cosmic force. What drives this entire infinite game? What is the energy that creates and destroys worlds? What is the force that brings order from chaos, complex systems from simplicity? Spiritual traditions answer unequivocally, love. We don't mean romantic love here, but that cosmic force that holds the universe together. Christianity calls this divine love. Hinduism calls it bhakti. Buddhism calls it compassion. Sufism calls it ishq, divine love. This love isn't sentimentality or weakness. It's the fundamental attractive force that seeks unity in apparent diversity. What organizes separate particles into atoms, atoms into molecules, molecules into cells, cells into living beings into ecosystems. Jesuit priest and paleontologist Pierre Teilhard de Chardin described it thus: "Love is the only energy capable of uniting living beings in such a way as to complete and fulfill them, for it alone takes them and joins them by what is deepest in themselves." The paradox of free will. If everything is part of infinite consciousness, does free will even exist? Or is everything predetermined? Are we responsible for our actions? Or are we just puppets in a cosmic game? This ancient philosophical problem receives a new approach from the spiritual perspective. Perhaps it's not about whether we have free will or not. Perhaps it's about gradually recognizing what we call our will is actually recognizing our part in cosmic will. When we're in harmony with our true nature, our decisions spontaneously harmonize with the universe's flow. We don't fight against life, but move with it. This isn't passivity, but the highest form of activity. It's like swimming in a river. You can fight against the current and exhaust yourself, or you can swim with the current and efficiently reach your destination. Wisdom lies in learning to distinguish when to let go and when to act. The power of the present moment and the timeless dimension. The only place where we can truly live life is the present moment. The past is gone, existing only in memories. The future hasn't arrived yet, existing only in plans and expectations. Only now exists in reality, but the infinite is found in the now. When we're completely present, when we don't think about past or future, we transcend the dimension of time. This is tasting eternity. In this moment, answers to all questions can be found. Not intellectual answers, but existential understanding. Eckhart Tolle calls this the power of now. When we're completely present, the ego recedes and the true self steps forward. This is when we experience that peace which surpasses all understanding. Meditative traditions have known this secret for millennia. Zen tradition teaches just sitting practice. You do nothing else, just be present. Vipassana meditation teaches observing the impermanence of things. Everything comes and goes. Only pure awareness remains. So, the phenomenon of synchronicity. When we come into harmony with life's flow, strange things begin to happen. A series of meaningful coincidences. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, the coincidence of events that aren't causally connected but still carry meaning. You think of someone and they call. You're seeking an answer to a question and accidentally stumble upon a book containing exactly what you need. You're facing a decision and signs from your environment point in one direction. Skeptics say these are coincidences we retrospectively endow with meaning. But those who live consciously know this is the universe's way of communicating. When we're open, life begins to guide us. Mythologist Joseph Campbell wrote about the hero's journey. In every great story, there's a point when the hero receives help from an unexpected source. This isn't just in fairy tales, but in life too. When we follow our true calling, the universe conspires to help us. Creative force and co-creation. Humans are unique in being able to consciously create. We don't just reproduce physically, but create artworks, technologies, thoughts, societies. This creative ability connects humans with the universe's creative force. When we create, we partake in cosmic creativity. A painting, a piece of music, a poem, an invention, all add to the universe's complexity and beauty. This isn't merely human activity, but evolution's continuation by other means. According to Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, humanity has entered a new evolutionary phase. Alongside biological evolution, consciousness evolution has begun. Through human cooperation, we create increasingly complex systems, cities, networks, cultures. The internet is perhaps the most visible example of this process. Billions of human consciousnesses connect in a global network. This might be the next developmental step in human consciousness, the emergence of collective consciousness. The connection between pain and growth. Why is there pain in life? If the universe is truly conscious and loving, why does it allow suffering? This is the ancient question that occupies every religion and philosophy. One possible answer is that pain is a tool for growth. Physical pain warns us of danger and protects us from further injury. Emotional pain might serve a similar purpose, signaling that something isn't right and change is needed. The greatest spiritual breakthroughs often happen after crises. When everything collapses around us, we're forced to rethink our lives. What previously seemed important diminishes. What we thought was certain becomes uncertain. And in this chaos, we find our true selves. Viktor Frankl, who survived concentration camps, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." Death as the greatest teacher. Paradoxically, Perhaps death teaches us the most about life. When we're aware of our mortality, every moment becomes more valuable. Every day is a gift, not something taken for granted. Tibetan Buddhism developed specific practices for preparing for death. The Bardo Thodol, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, provides detailed guidance on how to navigate the state between death and rebirth. But we don't need to wait for death to benefit from these teachings. We experience little deaths every day. Every sleep is a little death. Every awakening, a little rebirth. Every completed life phase, every lost relationship, every forgotten dream is a kind of death. Practicing universal love. How can you extend love to the entire world? This isn't a sentimental wish, but a practical spiritual practice. Buddhism's loving-kindness meditation provides concrete techniques for this. Start with yourself. Send love's energy to yourself. May I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be at peace. Then extend it to loved ones, acquaintances, strangers, even enemies. Finally, to the entire universe. This isn't naivety. This is expanding awareness. When you recognize that every being originates from the same consciousness, love becomes natural. Not emotional manipulation, but clearer seeing of reality. Martin Luther King put it this way: "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." The goalless path. What if there is no ultimate goal? What if the path itself is the goal? What if life isn't a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived? This can be a liberating thought. The pressure to achieve disappears. You don't need to get anywhere. There's nothing to achieve. You just need to live, with full awareness and openness. This doesn't mean having no goals or dreams, but these aren't separate from the path. They're part of it. Reaching the goal isn't more important than taking the path itself. Alan Watts described it thus: "What is the purpose of listening to music? To reach the end. If that were the purpose, then the best musicians would be those who played fastest." Accepting paradoxes. Life is full of paradoxes. You're unique, yet connected to everything else. You're free, yet live within constraints. You're mortal, yet something immortal lives within you. You're insignificant compared to cosmic scales, yet without your consciousness, the entire universe would be meaningless. These paradoxes don't need to be resolved. It's enough to accept them. Eastern wisdom has long known that truth often manifests in paradoxical form. The Tao Te Ching is full of such paradoxes. Modern physics has also discovered this. Light is simultaneously wave and particle. Quantum particles can be in multiple places at once. According to the uncertainty principle, we can't simultaneously measure precisely both a particle's position and velocity. Life as play. What if the entire universe is an infinite game? What if life exists because consciousness loves to play? Hinduism speaks of Lila, the divine play in which every being participates. This doesn't mean nothing matters. Quite the opposite. In a game, everything matters, but not tragically. If you lose a round, you start a new one. If a character dies, you choose another. This attitude can bring lightness to life without becoming superficial. We can take ourselves seriously without taking ourselves too seriously. Johann Huizinga in Homo Ludens explains that play is the foundation of human culture. Art, religion, philosophy, even science are all forms of play. We follow rules, set goals, and enjoy the process. And now, having walked through these thoughts, perhaps we've come closer to understanding. Life isn't 4 letters. Life is the infinite mystery hidden behind those 4 letters. Every question we asked led to more questions. And this is as it should be, because perhaps the answers aren't what matter, but the search itself. Perhaps the goal doesn't matter, but the journey. And perhaps right now, in this moment, while hearing these words, you've already found what you were seeking. You just don't know that you know yet. Life's secret might be just this. There is no secret. Everything is here, obvious and simple, but so simple that we overcomplicate it, so obvious that we don't notice it, so close to us that we can't see it. You breathe, you think, you feel, you live. This is already miraculous in itself. Everything else is just decoration on this fundamental miracle. And this miracle is infinite. It will never run out, never become boring. You'll never completely understand it. But there's still one question waiting for you that could change everything. What if everything we've talked about is just another illusion? What if the search itself must also be let go? What if the only truth is that